It's all associated with that low pressure system that's moving just off the coast of New South Wales. Significant storm. We did see a lot of big hail and large accumulations of hail in some areas as well. It affected numerous suburbs as well around the Sydney area, and that's all associated with the low pressure system that developed over southern New South Wales last night and brought those big rainfall totals to the inland parts of the south coast yesterday. And we're seeing those river rises down there as well. We saw falls of almost 200 millimetres or just over 200 millimetres just inland of some of the communities in the south coast there in 24 hours to 9 o'clock this morning. And that's kind of moved north now in towards Ulladulla and then into the Illawarra and now the central coast, bringing those heavy rain and storms as you saw today in Sydney.
Yeah, how much rain is left in this system?
Yeah, generally probably another 15 to 30 millimetres for areas, which is good. Probably still going to see some isolated heavier falls with storms around the 50 or 60 millimetre mark. Some of that rain extends out towards the ACT, but it is starting to now move north from the ACT now into the central coast. But the good news is much of the rain and storm activity should finally clear offshore tonight as the low starts moving away from the New South Wales coast.
Yeah, you mentioned the flash flooding in some parts of Sydney. How much rain has fallen into the Sydney catchment?
Yeah, thankfully not as much as we saw further south, but we have seen some isolated falls, definitely around the 30 millimetre mark in some of the suburbs, and most of that fell in pretty quick time as well. But luckily, it was a fairly quick moving system, but of course, all that rain on a lot of concrete obviously leads to some flash flooding, and obviously the hail led to some clogged drains as well. So that's obviously caused the issues right around the Sydney area. And we'll see that rain and storm activity continue, hopefully not as bad and not looking as bad in the coming hours before it clears offshore tonight.
On the south coast, that significant rainfall fell onto already dampened ground, and can they expect more flooding in the coming days?
Yeah, we do have a number of rivers experiencing minor to moderate flooding. A particular concern is probably the Snowy River, where we're forecasting major flooding for the towns and communities on the Snowy River. So that goes into the eastern parts of Victoria as well. And also just to the inland of Batemans Bay and a few other down near Moruya as well. We've seen a number of rivers there get into the minor to moderate flood warnings. Thankfully, they're very flashy, and what I mean by that is once the rain kind of stops, they kind of only stay high for a bit before they start easing. And we have seen a number of that on a couple of rivers in the south coast, as now the maximum or the heaviest rainfall is now moving further north.
And southeast Queensland also received downpours last night. Watching the cricket, which I'm guessing a lot of people have been doing today, it almost seems as though there's no remnants of it. Will they expect more rain over the weekend?
Yeah, thankfully the trough system has kind of brought all the weather the last 2 days, and some pretty dangerous thunderstorms for northern parts of Brisbane last night, where we saw many northern suburbs of Brisbane up towards the Sunshine Coast get around 50 to 100 millimetres there with storms. Thankfully, we're not expecting anything like that today. A full day of cricket should be on the place, but the storm risk has now shifted north to Sunshine Coast north, but we are seeing severe thunderstorms around the central coast, extending down into the Capricornia, so places like Rocky, Gladstone and up towards further north as well, likely to see some of those hit and miss severe thunderstorms today.
It's the opposite situation on the other side of the country over in WA. They're dealing with bushfires in the southwest. We know that conditions have eased in the last 24 hours. Are they likely to continue to be favourable for firefighters?
Yeah, thankfully they are, and you're right, we're seeing flooding and too much rain on the east coast, and on the west coast we'd like some rain, and unfortunately there's not much on the way in the coming days, but there is good news, particularly for those communities around the Margaret River area. We've still got those emergency alerts out through there, but temperatures are only expected to be in the low 20s today and through the weekend, and we're only expecting light to moderate west to southwesterly winds coming in off the ocean. So we've got some cooler winds, some lighter winds, some lower temperatures as well, so that's some really good news in the coming days as firefighters continue to control the fires down there.
We know on the east coast all of this rain is thanks to that La Nina that's in our region. Can we expect this kind of weather forecast for Christmas?
Yeah, the old Christmas forecast is all important. And we're not far away now, as we know, it'll be 2 weeks today is Christmas Eve. The one thing to note though, as we move into next week, it looks like we're going to undergo a pattern shift. So what I mean by that is a continuation of the heavy rain and storms that we're seeing through eastern parts of Australia. That looks to finally ease this weekend and clear out. And that pattern shift we're moving to is looking like a very hot and dry week across much of the country next week. So many places that have been quite cool for quite a long time may see some of their hottest temperatures for the summer so far. And we're going to see that that heat pool really build across Western and Central Australia early next week, with some of that heat then filtering down into southern and eastern parts of the country as we get towards the middle and latter part of the next week. So a bit early for Christmas just yet, but looks like at least a summer-like week right around the country next week.